A very good afternoon. You're watching the midday news on Rajya Sabha television. I'm Aishwarya Kapoor. Let us start with the headlines. Congress unveils election manifesto with focus on 5 key areas. Promises Nyay for the poor with minimum income guarantee scheme, employment for youth, boost to farm sector and entrepreneurs, and 6% of GDP for education sector. Congress and BJD betrayed poor people of Odisha, says Prime Minister Narendra Modi at a rally in Kalahandi in Odisha. Assures people of doing in 5 years what BJD and Congress could not in 70 years. Will also kick off NDA campaign in Bihar with rallies in Jammu and Gaya. Fourth phase nominations for Lok Sabha polls begin today. Polling on 29th of April to cover 71 constituencies in 9 states. Dimple Yadav, Giriraj Singh, Babul Supriyo, Munmun Sen and Sri Prakash Jaiswal among candidates. In Odisha, nominations for fourth and final phase begins for 42 assembly segments. And India and Chile agreed to work together to defeat and destroy terrorism in all its forms and manifestations, says President Ramnath Kovind after holding bilateral talks with his Chilean counterpart. Both nations also inked 3 agreements in the field of mining, culture and disability. The top story this afternoon, the Congress party has released its manifesto for the Lok Sabha polls. The manifesto titled "We Will Deliver" was released at the party headquarters by party president Rahul Gandhi in the presence of UPA chairperson Sonia Gandhi, former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh and other senior leaders of the party. Party President Rahul Gandhi said that the manifesto focuses on 5 key areas: justice for poorest of the poor under the minimum income guarantee or the Nyay scheme. The manifesto promises 22 lakh government vacancies to be filled if voted to power. For entrepreneurs, the Congress party said that no permission will be required for starting business. The Congress manifesto also promises a separate budget for farmers and also 6% GDP for the education sector.
गरीबी पर वार 72,000 और यह कांग्रेस पार्टी की पहली गारंटी है कि हिंदुस्तान के 20% सबसे गरीब परिवारों को हर महीने उनके बैंक अकाउंट में कांग्रेस पार्टी की सरकार डायरेक्ट पैसा डालेगी। 1 साल में 72,000, 5 साल में 3,60,000।
Discussion, the young people, the backward classes, the deprived classes, Dalits and minorities, all sections of society have been taken care of, but it is the duty of the Congress workers to carry the message of the manifesto to the people at large, and that's the purpose of releasing this manifesto today, so that we go ahead telling people what has been missing in the last 5 years of the BJP rule.
We have to bring the narrative to the real issues faced by the people. And the real issues are, as every survey, every research will tell us, the real issues are, number 1 is unemployment. 4 crore 70 lakh jobs were lost, not the 2 crore jobs every year that the Prime Minister promised. 4 crore 70 jobs were lost. The second issue is farmers' distress. Farmers' loan burden has increased year after year after year. And according to a NABARD report, the average Indian farmer has a loan burden of 1,04,000 rupees, 1,04,000 rupees.
And our colleague Kriti Mishra is now joining us live from outside the Congress's headquarters in New Delhi. A very good afternoon, Kriti. Kriti, promises galore as far as the Congress's manifesto is concerned. What is the mood after the release of the manifesto at the Congress headquarters?
Well, Aishwarya, as we reported in the morning, the much-awaited manifesto of the Congress party has been released by Congress President Rahul Gandhi and other senior leaders of the party. Of course, here the senior leaders have made a beeline expressing support to the manifesto that has been released. The party workers are here. The entire media is here. Of course, mood is upbeat and the kind of promises that the Congress party has made. And we've also reported in the morning that the fulcrum, of course, is going to be the Nyaya scheme that the Congress has promised an annual income support of 72,000 rupees to 20% poorest people, poorest families of the country. Thereafter, the Congress has also promised a separate Kisan or farmer budget and has also promised softs for the farmers, for entrepreneurs, for business, for industry. The Congress particularly said that the aim is to set the narrative. Now, it remains to be seen whether the Congress is successful in setting that narrative. Aishwarya?
Right, Kriti, you stay with us. We'll just come back to you. We are also joined in by Mr. KG Suresh, senior journalist here in the studio. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us here on Rajya Sabha television. Sir, now we had a fair bit of idea about the content of the manifesto, the way Rahul Gandhi was tweeting over the last few days since 25th of March. We had a fair bit of idea of what this manifesto is going to look like. And, much of that has been, in fact, incorporated in the manifesto that is released today. Of course, Rahul Gandhi, they are speaking about 5 major principles of the manifesto. Of course, one among them, the Nyaya scheme. And also he spoke about 22 lakh job vacancies in government. He said these are to be fulfilled by 31st of March 2020. Of course, a huge promise really made by Rahul Gandhi. But, there's no roadmap that has actually been mentioned that how these actually jobs are going to be fulfilled.
Yes. Absolutely, Aishwarya, you are right. There are no surprises. I mean, these are things that we already knew that Congress is going to. Congress leaders have been talking about these issues.
Yes.
So nothing new in the sense. In fact, I would say that nothing new in what Congress has been saying since the last several decades. In fact, it was Srimati Indira Gandhi who had given the slogan of Garibi Hatao.
Yes.
I mean, so many decades back, and I think even after 70 years of independence, the same slogan is being given, Garibi Pe Maar and 72,000. So it is more a kind of the fundamental difference that I see is that, there is absolutely, while these are soaps, no doubt, and may also prove to be attractive for some voters, but the fact is that there is no serious effort to empower the citizens. You see, it is all about doles and soaps that is sought to be given rather than empowering the citizens. That is what one would have looked at. Similarly, if you look at, no doubt, the proposed budget for 6% for education is certainly laudable, but one needs to see how, it is going to be, because he was referring in his speech at least to the higher education part, whereas the focus has to be on primary education,
yes,
which is really in a bad shape, So, a lot of governments have been putting a lot of focus on higher education, but unless you strengthen the foundation, I really don't know how far we will succeed. Thirdly, again, he has hit out at the government's Ayushman scheme,
yes,
and also talked about, strengthening government, hospitals. I don't know how far, given the reputation of the government hospitals, the way, the mess they are in, the bad shape they are in for lack of funds, for the inhospitable staff, and the very bare minimum facilities. I am really not sure that how much they will be able to deliver in terms of, whereas today, as per the Ayushman scheme, you can walk into any hospital and avail treatment. Now, I think that this is again needs to be seen really that, how far it would be successful to strengthen the government hospitals which are really in a bad shape, and where people just don't have any hopes.
Right.
So a lot of issues are there, but the roadmap is not clear even with regard to the Nyayas scheme that is proposed. One really wonders whether from where the money will come.
Exactly.
Will it be that the middle classes will be taxed further? Who will pay for it? Ultimately, it will not come from heaven. The money will have to be somewhere generated from within the country only. So are the cess going to be increased? Is the taxes going to be increased? So a lot of questions are there. Are you going to reduce on the subsidies on fertilizers,
Yes.
urea and so many things? I think that we really need to ponder over all these issues, deliberate on these issues. And even in the matter of the Mahatma Gandhi Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, which was the flagship scheme of the previous government, of the UPA government, that they are going to now increase the number of mandates from 100 to 150. You see, Manrega no doubt was the flagship scheme, but it is also a fact that it was riddled with a lot of corruption.
Right.
So you had at the village level, ponds which were dug and filled up. That is the way, it was shown. Everything was done on paper. So a lot of corruption. It had become a joke virtually.
Absolutely.
So are we doing something to ensure that it is rid of corruption and the mismanagement it had seen? I think that these all are the details which we really need to look into.
And sir, at the same time, as you very importantly mentioned about the fact that any manifesto should not only talk about what, but it also should talk about how. Like you mentioned that there is no mention of how that money is going to come from.
Absolutely.
What are the procedures that are going to be followed?
Absolutely.
And what necessary permissions will be taken?
Yes.
These issues have not. For example, Rahul Gandhi was speaking and he was mentioning about the fact that the economy, he said economy is jammed. But what his roadmap is going to be for the country's economy, nothing of that is actually mentioned in this entire manifesto.
Yeah, I mean, there are other issues also with regard to, foreign policy, where today we have a robust foreign policy. What is going to be our foreign policy? What is going to be the government's stand on Kashmir? What is going to be the relations with Pakistan? I think that what is going to be the, national security policy? Please remember that in the last 5 years, we, except in Jammu and Kashmir, we did not see any terrorist incident anywhere else in the country. Now, what is the emphasis that this the Congress party is going to give so far as national security is concerned? So there are n number of issues wherein we really need to know what exactly is the thinking of the main opposition party. How do they propose to go about it? So it's not about just some populist slogans and populist measures that have been announced. I think that it is equally important. Now, the former finance minister had said that, in the last government, he has alleged that 4 crore jobs have been lost. Now, then are you going to do something about restoring those 4 crore jobs?
Yes.
Which you claim that have been lost. So I think that we also need to know about it. What is your roadmap so far as black money is concerned? We really need to know that. So, what about the fugitives who are there in many countries, the economic offenders who are on the run? What do you plan to do with them? The country is bothered about those issues,
Right.
And I think that these are issues which really need to be. And what about the urban poor? What about your vision for the smart cities?
Yes.
I think that there are n number of questions which really need to be looked into before we come to a conclusion about the promises made in this manifesto.
Absolutely. So you stay with us. Let's go back to our colleague Kriti Mishra, who's outside the Congress's headquarters in New Delhi. Kriti, as far as GST is concerned, Congress party has been criticizing the GST in a number of election campaigning. Also, we saw a number of criticism really from the Congress camp over GST. What does the Congress's manifesto speak about GST?
Well, specifically about the economy, the Congress has put out several points, and as far as the GST is concerned, the Congress says that it will bring in a very simplified structure of the GST. But other areas of economies, particularly the Congress party, is talking about creating a different Ministry for Industry, Services and Employment. It is also talking about redefining MSMEs and saying that a unit would be considered micro if it employs 10 people, and it will be considered small if it employs 50 people or 100 people, and it will be considered medium if it employs more than 500 people. So those things that it is talking about. And as far as the manufacturing is concerned, the Congress party says that it will be the focus of the Congress party, voted to power, to increase the share of manufacturing in GDP to 25% in the next 5 years. It is also talking about unclogging various stalled projects, and it is making several promises on the front, on the economic front, as far as the paradigm of economy is concerned. But again, Aishwarya, the moot question is, where is the money going to come from? What kind of fiscal consolidation or fiscal path that the Congress party is planning to treading on? And as far as the clarification is concerned, right now there is the entire promise or the entire manifesto, many of the promises made in the manifesto, that those promises are shrouded in uncertainty as far as the implementation is concerned. How effective would be implementation, and how does the Congress party plan to plug all the leakages that are already there in the system, because there are schemes, but the implementation is the major concern. So that is where we need more clarity from the Congress party after it has released its manifesto. Aishwarya?
Right. Kriti, stay with us. Let's come back to our expert in the studio. Mr. Suresh, speaking about GST, of course, that is one issue that the Congress really has been eating out at the BJP in several campaigning speeches. Also, we saw a lot of criticism coming in from Rahul Gandhi as well. But as far as manifesto is concerned, it did not mention anything except the fact that it will be simplified. How do you look at Congress's take as far as GST is concerned, because it is trying to grab what has been a traditional BJP vote bank, those of businessmen. So what does this say about the Congress's manifesto and its approach towards the traders, especially the low income traders are concerned?
Absolutely. You see, please let us not forget that the idea of GST was mooted by the previous UPA government only. That they could not implement is a different thing.
Yes.
But once the BJP moved on that, then they started opposing it. You see, this is something which is one nation, one tax, one market.
Yes.
So it is something that had to be welcomed, and of course it evolves. It started off with a lot of bottlenecks, obstacles, but over a period of time, I think substantially the pressure has been eased on the traders, the procedures have been simplified, and now of course it is much more friendly than, so there is not much for the Congress to say on that regard, except those initial its opposition to both demonetization and GST. So that is why they have, they have not said that they are going to scrap it if GST was that bad. So GST is something on which you just cannot, the nation has gone ahead on it, and you cannot take a U-turn now.
Yes.
So obviously they can only say that it can be simplified, so that more items can be included and more easier it can be made for the benefit of the traders. And I think that a lot of steps have already been taken. They can only further proceed on that.
Right. And sir, speaking about farmers, of course, the Congress manifesto, there are two key things that Rahul Gandhi spoke about. One was a separate budget for farmers he spoke about. And the second step he said was that if a farmer is not able to repay the loans, that should not be it should not be a criminal offence, it should rather be a civil offence. So how do you look at those promises made as far as farmers are concerned?
Well, you see, an agrarian crisis has been there in this country for a long time. Farmer suicides have been taking place, and there have been farmer protests all over the country. Successive governments have taken, and even the current government have taken a lot of steps to improve the lot of farmers. But the fact remains that farmers continue to be, particularly the small and marginal farmers, continue to face a lot of problem. Their dependency on the monsoon and the weather continues to be there in spite of all the technological advancements that the world has made. So there is a crisis, there is no doubt about it. And certainly, you know, there have been concerns about farmer loans is one issue, let us not forget, which turned to be the game changer for Congress in the previous assembly elections in Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh. And I think that they are playing it again. And this certainly, this particular announcement of that it won't be a criminal matter and it would be a civil matter will certainly have a resonance among the farmers. And you know, because that is something which was really, that is a provision which is a colonial era provision which has to be scrapped, because the farmers cannot be, when you have the big industrialists who have you know, all kinds of escape routes. The farmer should not be penalized for no fault of his. If the monsoon fails and if he is unable to pay up, I don't think that he should be, you know, put it behind the bars. He is ultimately, he is the Annadata and he has to be respected. And I think that this is a step that I think all political parties should move toward. There should be a consensus on this.
Absolutely. So Congress releasing its manifesto today, and of course we all agreed here that you know, the manifesto has to have certain important things. It should not only say what, it should also say how, as Mr. KG Suresh said, and also the fact that you know, every manifesto should also explain the explicit broad terms that they use. In fact, in this manifesto there were a number of broad terms used, but what do they explicitly mean? They have not been mentioned, of course, and there is also no long-term and short-term goal demarcation that we are seeing in this manifesto. But we have to wait and watch how the other party manifestos come up in the days to come. Thank you so much, Mr. Suresh, for joining us and sharing a perspective on that story. Thank you so much, Kriti, who also joined us from outside Congress's headquarters in New Delhi. Thank you, both of you. Let's move on in the bulletin now, right now. Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed a rally in Odisha's Kalahandi today, and addressing the rally, Prime Minister Modi said that 24 lakh houses in Odisha have got free electricity connection, while 8 lakh poor families have been given houses in Odisha. He said that his government identified 8 crore fake people who were availing subsidies and looting public money. Prime Minister Modi said that he had worked diligently for the past 5 years without a single leave to bring about transformation in the country.
साथियों, आपने अपने इस प्रधान सेवक को 5 वर्ष पहले दिल्ली का दायित्व दिया और सेवा करने का आदेश दिया था। बीते 5 वर्षों में एक भी दिन की छुट्टी भी लिए बिना एक शरीर से जितना काम लिया जा सकता है उसका पल पल का उपयोग करते हुए मैंने देश की सेवा करने का प्रयास किया है।
And Prime Minister Modi also targeted the ruling BJD government in the state, saying that if BJP had formed a government in the state, the development would have been faster and better. He said the Congress and BJD conspired to keep the poor, forcing people to migrate to other states for livelihood. He said that his government has done in 5 years what the Congress could not do in decades, also stressing that if today the government sent 100 paise for the poor, the entire amount reaches him.
कांग्रेस और बीजेडी पर गंभीर आरोप लगाना चाहता हूं। इन जैसे दलों ने गरीब को गरीब रखने की साजिश रची है, एक ऐसी साजिश जिसका पाप ये दल कभी नहीं धो पाएंगे। गरीब को उन्होंने वोट बैंक समझा है, जो चुनाव दर चुनाव इनके साथ बहुत विश्वास से जुड़ा और उन्होंने हर चुनाव के बाद गरीब को धोखा दिया है।
And with that, we wrap up this edition of Midday News. But news and updates continue on your channel on the other side as well. Thanks for watching.